When people see this Pokemon game, they're going to be shit-faced.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Games 355. I'm Jen Donahoe, back in the saddle still, and I fill the marketing and publishing role in the podcast. Today we have in first chair and not in first chair is...
Eric Kress, strategy investing.
And
Phil Black, monetizations are second chair.
Phil, lovely to see you. Our first podcast in forever. I'm so excited.
Ditto.
All right. Here's what we got on the episode today. Apple is in $2 billion worth of trouble in the UK. Halo is coming to the PlayStation, signaling the end of exclusivity in the console wars and the rise of the 30% margin targets. Oof. Massive Amazon layoffs hit 30,000-ish people and decimate the games group. Battlefield 6 keeps pushing with new content ahead of COD's mid-November release. And happy one-year anniversary to Pokemon Pocket TCG. It's going strong. Apparently, 150 million downloads and $1 billion in revenue, according to AppMagic. However, when I look at Sensor Tower, it's a little bit lower. But in any event, it's done well. All right, so...
People will disagree, by the way, in that segment.
Okay, that's fine. I'm reading the article of the news that was reported. I looked at it. We'll fight. That's fine. All right. I had jury duty. And so I realized that in Europe, it's not necessarily a thing. I was talking to my friends in France and they're like, oh, we don't do jury duty. We're like, what is this thing? And I was in the box. I was jury number 11. And luckily they asked me, if you or a family member has ever, experienced a crime. And unfortunately I had to say yes. And the crime happened to relate to what the case was about. And so I got dismissed. Yes, I didn't have to do my civic duty, but it was kind of fascinating. Have you ever been on jury duty before?
I did it once, and it was the stupidest fucking case ever. It was some homeless guy that attacked another homeless person and in theory stole money from them. And the whole case was absolutely ridiculous. And we went through this whole thing and he was not guilty because there was no proof at all. Anyway, it was so dumb. So dumb.
Oh, yeah.
The problem is that you never get in anything interesting. It's always generally it's mostly civil and
oh, well, this would have been the defendant flashed or indecent exposure. And so it was sexual in nature. And they're is anyone?
That's stupid as well. I mean, what kind of case is that? I want a murder, I want something interesting.
I had a friend when I was at Hasbro, she was on a murder trial and she was gone for 3 months.
That would be cool. I mean, it'd be boring, but it'd be an experience that you could talk about, right? But listening to one homeless guy bitch at another homeless guy, it's fuck that.
All right. So talk to me about Jacob and driving away from you.
So Jacob has finally had his I'm the fuck out of here moment. So he got his driver's license. And I swear to God, he left Wednesday morning. He didn't come home till Sunday. He was just driving all over the Bay Area. It was insane, and Jacob is like a homebody to some degree. So anyway, he's having his freedom moment. Good for him. We did go visit the daughter at school last weekend, which was amazing. And the fact is that she's so goddamn nice. It's almost eerie, after suffering 4 years as a teenager in high school. She's now finally appreciating her wonderful parents. And I guess it's true. They do appreciate you after they leave. Oh. And so we're feeling that. That's good. But yeah, that's the update.
You're an empty nester. I really want to cue all of the Nano Banana images of you stuck in the nest. But you asked us to connect with your daughter on LinkedIn. And I looked at the picture and I'm like, wow, she's beautiful. She's definitely what happened? Because she's not related to you.
Rude. Yeah. So rude.
Yeah. She definitely got the white genes.
She got the white genes. Yeah, she definitely got the cracker gene, dude.
Okay, let's go into shills. This is kind of interesting. We're building out what we're calling the Deconstructor of Fun Roundtable events. It's an opportunity to get around 50 to 100 people together to exchange ideas. We're trying to do it a little bit more for product marketing or product people. It could be game dev if you want, but we want to set it up all around the world. But Kress, you and I are going to take command of the West Coast, LA, San Francisco, Seattle. We'll, tap Laura for Seattle and Vancouver. So if you or your company want to actually host us, we have a bunch of friends that are offering up company space to have us come We'll do all the content, invite people, and run it for you. So that is something. Reach out to us on Deconstructor Fun Slack channel. Mishka actually interviewed Ben Feder, from the former CEO of Take-Two.
That was a good get.
Yeah, it was I haven't gotten all the way through yet, but dude, this guy is smart. I was like, why did he agree to talk to Mishka? I'm just kidding. I love you, Mishka. But yeah, so big interview there. And then Phil, you've got a bunch of podcasts coming. I'm super excited for Shooter Podcast.
Shooter Monthly. It's been teased. It's been rumored. The rumors are true. Out this week, maybe early next week. Still one of my favorite podcast crews. Just like an Avengers assembly of shooter veterans. And I think we got to some really interesting insight in this episode too. They're going to be dropping monthly, and there's no better time for shooters than the holidays. And by the way, just so people know, we're covering mobile too. It's not just HD. So I think that's been another interesting twist. A lot of mobile experience in that crew too.
Yeah, your first one was really well done. I think I gave you public kudos for that. So with Chris Sides and there's another Chris, right? Who's the other guest?
Chris Anjos, and there's a newcomer on the podcast, Mr. Faras, who I used to work with at DICE and is now over at TTK Games, which is where a lot of the ex-DICE veterans have gone.
Nice. Okay. And then I thought we were perfect on corrections, but Chris, did you get a little backlash?
No, we're a little bit, but we're totally perfect. I did hear a few folks about the Moritz deal. It is pretty clear that he is not an operating partner, which makes a lot of sense. So he still continues to be part of the grift at Lightspeed, So it's like,
oh man, you were so mean to him.
You got to do what you got to do, So he knows where the money is. He knows where the bacon.
He does, yeah. The intersection of AI and gaming.
In the game of growth, everyone is looking for that power-up. Vibes is exactly that. It's built by industry people, so they actually get the challenges you're dealing with. As a result, they become the fastest-growing gamified rewards platform out there. And the results are kind of nuts. With their AI-powered targeting, you're not just buying installs. You're bringing in the right players. And now they've got this new ROAS optimization engine, so your campaigns basically level up automatically. Vibes is built different. It's designed for growth. And I guess you could say it's powered by good vibes. Check out their DOF exclusive case studies by following the link in the description. And go to vybs.co. That's vybs.co. Share your email and join the waitlist list.
Guessing where your users come from? That's so 2010. AppsFlyer is like having a cheat code for mobile marketing. Pinpoint attribution, real-time insights, and analytics that actually make sense. Stop flying blind and start flying smart. AppsFlyer, because your data is your best co-op partner.
Let's get going. So the first story is Apple faces up to $2 billion in damages. So the Competition Appeal Tribunal, the CAT in the UK, found that Apple abused its dominant position in the iOS app distribution and in-app payment markets between October 2015 and the end of 2020. Specifically, the tribunal said that the developers were charged excessive and unfair commission fees, which is the 30%, when a fair rate would have been 17.5%. I wonder how they came up with that number. About half of the overcharge on developers was estimated to have been passed on to consumers. The ruling would expose Apple to damages up to $2 billion for millions of affected UK users. So, Chris, tell me a little bit about what Apple is doing to respond to this. I mean, I have to imagine they've got lawyers around the world now dealing with this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously planning to appeal that decision. They called the ruling a flawed view of the mobile app economy. But the place of the damages, like hearing, is supposedly happening in the next couple of weeks. And then they'll figure out how much they're going to get charged. Like, again, this is another moment in the, the UK and EU like battle against Apple and big tech in general, frankly. But kind of like my thinking here is that $2 billion is fucking mice nuts for Apple. I mean, like $2 billion, like, dude, they got like $65 million in cash on the balance sheet, right? Like, this is nothing for them, right? But I still think the wagons are circling and changes in the app economy are inevitable, and they're going to have to reduce the fee. right?
Yeah.
Even if they split the difference and go down to 20, right? Like, I think that would make sense. It just seems like that is the inevitable thing. As I said a few months ago, the Google guys were kind of like giving me that wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yeah.
But that's where they're headed. So, that I think seems likely ultimately.
I don't want to be like, it's unfair, but isn't it a little unfair to come back and hit them with this price tag like so late? Like, this is 2015 to 2020. Did they ever like raise their hand, this tribunal, and say back in the day, hey, you guys need to do something about this? I don't know. It feels like it comes out of nowhere.
I don't know. Unclear. Maybe they did.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Maybe it's arbitrary what dates they set. They just need a calculation based upon the certain time period. I don't know.
This is the stupidest way to do regulation. Like having a government tribunal decide on price controls is the absolute worst way to decide how to move forward with the App Store regulation. As Tim Sweeney has been advocating, the solution here is not price controls. It's the ability to allow competition and allow third-party app stores like you can with the DMA. That is the solution. That is what regulates price. You do not want government tribunals setting up price. That is a dark, dark path. Do not let our anger against Apple cloud our clear judgment. Bad solution. Not only that, the thing I don't understand about this ruling, it doesn't change the law. Like, they can still charge 30%. And they just get a fine.
That's kind of my point, is like, where's the law that they broke? And like, why are they getting charged?
This is why these fines never work, particularly for big tech, because they got endless amounts of cash to like throw at this shit. Like
It's
not a fine,
ticket.
it's a tax. It's a tax. This is
ongoing
how
tax?
the EU is. Like, that's essentially what it is, right? It essentially just becomes an ongoing tax where you can basically have case law continue to, okay, now I'll file again. Now there's some common law, case law building up.
Well, anyway,
all right.
The winds are changing.
Yeah,
it's
for
happening.
sure. So, Crest, for you, I wanted to, cue some sort of like the song with the trumpets when somebody dies. EA's last earnings report. It's not really even an earnings report, but since the acquisition is in process, EA has basically suspended their quarterly analyst calls and is no longer issuing forward guidance. This is so sad. No specific Q2 performance metrics were disclosed for The Sims, EA Sports FC, or Skate. Shockingly, they were not disclosed because they're not very good, likely. They made some general references to successful launches, but we all know that the challenges there. So net bookings look to be down 13% year on year, which was due to not comping college football. Madden 26 looks to be seeing some growth year on year. No new Battlefield 6 numbers from them, besides they sold 7 million copies in the first 3 days, which was October 10th to 13th. I was a little surprised to hear how well Apex is doing. So congrats to the smart people on that team whose work looks like it's paying off. Apex returned to double-digit net bookings growth year on year after EA had been forecasting a 40% annual decline earlier in the year. So Apex turning it around. Like, that was the part I was like, I have a bunch of friends there, so I was like, good for them. Any thoughts, Mr. Kress, on, the end of an era?
This is the interim report. If they were like trying to, really sell this, it's like FIFA's up, Madden's up, Apex is up, and Battlefield's crushing it. So like if they were like a publicly traded company, they'd be fucking screaming at the top of their lungs about how well things are going, right? Despite the decline because of the tough comp for the football game. So this was, in essence, a great earnings report, because I'm sure they would have raised guidance for the remainder of the year given the performance of Battlefield. But because they're no longer a publicly traded company, for all intents and purposes,
they don't have to.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. One of the sad things about that acquisition is it's, one of the ways that we can keep our finger on the pulse of things.
Less visibility, publicly traded names give less publicly traded names mean less visibility into the market.
All right, let's move on to something that is publicly traded and kind of interesting. So, Halo. So Halo is coming to PlayStation. It is truly the end of Xbox exclusivity. Halo Campaign Evolved. It's a complete remake of the 2001 Combat Evolved. Launches in 2026 on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PC. First Halo game ever on PlayStation after 25 years of exclusivity. This is the game that brought me back into gaming on console. I remember sitting there with the four screen on a big giant TV playing with my friends. So it's fun to see it back. It's weird to think it's on PlayStation. Halo Studio community director confirmed Halo is on PlayStation going forward, meaning all future Halo games will be multi-platform, not just the remake. The game features 4-player online co-op with crossplay, 3 new prequel missions, and 9 additional weapons. I did see some videos. It does look better, which is nice. So we recently covered Helldivers coming out of the Halo ODST content. This is the first time we're seeing the actual game on PlayStation. I think we need to get out our white surrender flags. This is the franchise that defined Xbox. It's their Mario. Who, God, did I just do a Laura and say Mario? This effectively means that Xbox has surrendered the exclusive content part of the console wars. This is also a whole new lens to their campaign. This is an Xbox. If you've seen that campaign, it's like, I think we need to put a PlayStation in all of those. This is an Xbox campaign because now it's on PlayStation. And even Nintendo. On the positive side, maybe this is going to reinvigorate the Halo franchise, give it some life now that they know they've got bigger numbers that they can do. But, however, any of this needs to be considered with what Satya Nadella is out there saying about a 30% margin target. So, Phil, do you want to hit this clip? Let's listen to him.
Biggest gaming business is the Windows business. To us, gaming on Windows. And of course, Steam has built a massive marketplace on top of it and done a very successful job of it. So to us, the way we are thinking about gaming is, first of all, now we're the largest publisher after the Activision. So therefore, we want to be a fantastic publisher, similar approach to what we did with Office. We're going to be everywhere in every platform. So we want to make sure, whether it's consoles, whether it's the PC, whether it's mobile, whether it's cloud gaming, or the TV. So we just want to make sure the games are being enjoyed by gamers everywhere. Second, we also want to do innovative work in the system side on the console and on the PC. And bring, it's kind of funny that, people think about the console, PC as two different things. We built the console because we wanted to build a better PC, which could then perform for gaming. And so I kind of want to revisit some of that conventional wisdom. But at the end of the day, console has an experience that is unparalleled. It delivers performance that's unparalleled. That pushes, I think, the system forward. So I'm really looking forward to the next console, the next PC gaming. But most importantly, the game business model has to be where we have to invent maybe some new interactive media as well. Because after all, gaming's competition is not other gaming. Gaming's competition is short-form video. And so if we as an industry don't continue to innovate, both how we...
I'm just outraged. I mean, he really got almost everything wrong about our business in like one quick clip. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think everyone's aware that he's expecting the gaming division to be super profitable with 30%. So that's the third thing that they've completely fucked up. But clearly Microsoft has lost, right? Like absolute chaos at the company right now. No one knows what the fuck is going on. Everyone's running around with their head cut off. Management's being questioned. Like everybody I talk to that has any type of information about what's happening inside the company is just completely losing their minds, right? So anyway, the reason that Satya kind of is off it is that, first of all, like merging PC and Xbox is exactly the wrong thing to do. The reason that Xbox exists because it was such an easier way to interface with this type of content, right? PC was a pain in the ass, and it continues to be the pain in the ass. And when you actually ask about the Xbox Rogue Ally thing, the reason that thing is a piece of shit is because it still has fucking Windows on it. You know, like Windows is a deterrent. It is a pain in the butt to manage it. What Xbox does, and it did, as well as PlayStation and Nintendo for that matter, is that they create a system that's dedicated to gaming only and makes it a much easier interface and an easier system to actually do what you want to do, which is play games. And that's the whole point. The second thing is that I've made this comment before too, is that we are competing for time against TikTok and stuff like that, which is totally true. But the thing is that we're not competing against TikTok. Like we are trying to build the best type of content to compete against TikTok. And when you start removing the ability for you to have a console, that like fucks up your whole competitive advantage, right? Of a distribution platform, of a really good platform for gaming and stuff like that. So you don't want to compete directly against something like fucking TikTok because then you just become garbage, right? Like, and you just deliver your content everywhere. You want to compete in the console market, right? You don't want to, again, don't want to compete against TikTok directly, right? So basically, you want to become a global publisher, is what he said, which is complete bullshit. Like, what do you want to become? Sega, Atari, like 3DO? Like, that's what you're saying. You're basically getting rid of your hardware advantage and becoming a publisher. That doesn't even make any sense, right? And so you give out all your platform distribution advantage. So it's a complete backwards ass strategy. And then finally, this profit thing is like 30% profits is ridiculous. Like, I was actually looking this up. EA and Activision certainly were at 30%, like roughly around there, right? But 30% is an insane profit margin.
It's
and
rough.
he got the whole thing backwards, right? Like, profit margins don't fund innovation, right? You need to reinvest profit into your teams to grow innovation and revenue, right? So it's the dollars themselves that are reinvested in the company that will actually fund innovation. It's not the fact that you're hitting a 30% margin target. That's ridiculous. And so finally, like, this is the thing I've been talking about for years now, is that the reason they're in such a tough spot right now is because they weren't working on a profitable model, right? They were being funded by Microsoft to do these fucking stupid strategies like day one releases. And this is why they're in this predicament and why it's been so dramatic when they're trying to get back to profitability and they have to cut teams and cut people. Like, this is exactly what I've been talking about for years, right? And so they are completely on the wrong track now, 100% in my view anyway. Like, this ubiquitous type bullshit going across all these different platforms, competing directly against fucking YouTube and TikTok and Netflix. Fuck off. Like, this is bad juju, and they're going to lose. And it's just, again, it's time to spin this thing out and let them run on their own. I really respect Satya and everything he's done for Microsoft, but he doesn't understand gaming. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. So
I'm going to give you one more, Chris. There's an ad-supported version of Xbox Game Pass service coming. It was confirmed last week that, internal folks are testing it. Surely this is going to be where they get the 30% margin. But while I'm kidding a little bit, I'm not totally kidding. As Eric Seufert said, everything's an ad network. So first, Netflix and the streamers are, making. I think Netflix is at over $1 billion on their ad-supported version of the Netflix service. So it's an inevitable that the, hyper-casual ad-driven service is going to help boost the bottom line in a market that basically flatlined after the pandemic. How do you monetize all of those extra people that are sitting out there that don't want to pay the now? Remember, they raised their prices, and it's was something like between $300 and $400 a year if you're a gamer to get Game Pass, the mode where you can actually play Call of Duty. So yes. So let's talk a little bit about shared time, which is TikTok and short form video. So Joost van Drunen in his Super Joost newsletter has this image, which is from eMarketer, which pretty much shows that the time spent on social media and gaming, which is social media time spent like 19% and gaming is about 13%. So people are spending a little bit more time on social media than gaming. And we knew this. We knew that short form video is growing. But the ad spend on social media is about 42%. And the ad spend on gaming, this is by brands spending their money on ads inside of gaming to sell their products. So you have 42% on social media and only about 3.7% on gaming. I actually have seen this number be more like 5 to 8%, but still 42 versus, between 4 and 8% is incredibly low because we don't have a lot of good ways for brands to spend money inside of our products and services. Chris, I know, and Phil, I know you guys hate this, but this is a way to make some margin if it's done. I
don't hate this.
Right.
I like money. Money is my highest love.
But this is
so.
I think I object to this whole kind of like discussion in this way because the fact of the matter, social media is fucking free, right? It's fucking free.
True.
Right? And so it's ad supported.
True. Yep.
Gaming is not free, right? People are spending insane amounts of money. The fact that our engagement is that
free
high,
to play.
Well,
I'm like, Chris,
I'm talking about console.
Yes. On
top of that, free to play monetization is monetization. Social media, there is no free to play monetization.
That's not true at all. TikTok does $4 billion a year on their coin economy.
Yeah, you can spend money on the creators. Yes.
Right. Let me take a step back here. The fact of the matter is that we are in a paid type environment, right? So it should be revenue share, not time share that we're talking about, right? And so when you start doing these metrics like this, these are meaningless metrics when it comes to what people are actually spending their money on, right? And the audience that you're capturing. And on top of that, it's conflating things, right? Because the thing is that the console market is a premium market, $50, $500 device, and 3 to 4 games a year, right? Like that is a premium market, and so this is suggesting that you can layer on metrics for a primarily average ad-driven business on a gaming market. You just can't, right? Because the gaming market is completely different.
What's a little confusing about this chart that I agree it's confusing, one is consumers spending their time are the white bars. So consumers are spending a little bit more time. Brands are spending their money more in social media because to your point, it is designed as a free service. It's just like Facebook. It's just like Meta. It's just like Netflix now. All of those are designed to support ads, where the majority of the gaming business, especially on console, was not designed or built to serve ads, which is why the spend opportunity is much less by a brand. And so it's not players spending money, it's brands spending money. But so I agree to your point. We have a lot more premium spend, especially on console. I've actually done a lot of looking into ads on console. It's very, very difficult to do because players hate it because they've spent money. They're like, I gave you my money. Why are you showing me an ad inside of something I spent money on? So I do think what you're saying is absolutely correct. As more free-to-play hits console, I do think as cloud gaming, or Game Pass streaming happens, if they make unobtrusive ads or say, instead of giving us $400 so you can play Call of Duty on day one, have this Game Pass ad-supported model, I do think that is a bit more of a value to a player, kind of like rewarded video. Anyway, sorry, that was me going off.
What's your pushback here, Philip?
Where to start? So first of all, this graph from Yoast is fucking bullshit. eMarketer is your source. What do we mean by time spent? Is this of gamers? Is this the general population? I spent a lot of time trying to look into timeshare, and it's very hard to get good data on this. There's something called the American Time Use Survey, and it's very hard to get good results out of this. So I don't think we have a really good understanding of how time spent is changing between social media and gaming. I don't think we have a good view on that, and I think that's been a core question, because it's not just Satya who's saying this to be some sort of clever CEO saying, hey, we're competing with short form video. If you remember, Reed Hastings came out and said we're competing with Fortnite. So there's been all these entertainment CEOs that come out and say this. So it's not a new trend that people are concerned, because at the end of the day, there's 24 hours in a day. And so, okay, we're competing for relative shares of this. But to your point, Eric, it's not just that. It's also ARPU per hour, right? And that's a metric that's kind of been lost a long time ago to the gaming ethos. There used to be a thing we were tracking is, how much does gaming monetize per hour per user? And I think that's much higher than these other forms of media. But I think this whole conversation about time use and short-term video, I do think it's real. I do think it's a real competition to us. But I think some of the things people forget is that when we look at Sensor Tower, for instance, we look at DAU between TikTok, Royal Match, and I put in 2 other apps that I think gaming is not spending enough time taking as a serious competitor, which is the Meta AI app, which has AI-generated videos as the way they serve short-form video to people, as well as the Sora app by OpenAI, which is the same concept, right? It's basically just Instagram Reels or TikTok with AI videos. And so TikTok growth has actually been slowing and has kind of flatlined since about 2023, which I think is a good sign for us. And we see not so much growth in the Meta AI app and the Sora app. I do know that Ben Thompson from Tetri used to talk about the fact that Facebook was kind of slipping in AI videos into their normal Reels and Instagram, as well as the core Facebook app. And they were seeing massive success. But when they've diced it out into their own apps, they're not seeing this crazy growth. So the only thing we've seen some uptick in is actually Sora, which is hitting around 1 million DAU from OpenAI. But when you compare that to something like Royal Match, already at 3 million DAU, and by the way, we're just looking at the United States, I'm not really seeing the numbers yet that suggest this is a real threat. And with TikTok not growing, I don't know. It sounds like a clever thing to say, but I'd love to see some more growth here. I do think this is a looming threat. And I do think gaming has not taken AI seriously. Like, we haven't talked about Elon Musk's attempt at gaming AI, which is coming. And I do think we should be scared shitless about what he's going to do. He's a bullshitter, but as Benedict Evans says, he's a bullshitter who delivers. And so if we don't hop on some of this AI generated content, we're going to lose the supply side war. Certainly Western publishers are going to lose the supply side war. We're not going to be able to keep up with the content pace and the algorithm that I think these AI apps can deliver. So I'm kind of skeptical on the whole time use thing, but I am scared about AI generated short form video. And I do think that's a threat we need to be taking seriously.
Okay, I'm going to try to articulate this a little bit better, is that the time spent metric is not nearly as interesting to me as the money spent metric, right? And so the audience that we have in gaming is a premium audience that's willing to spend not only on premium games on console and PC, but also spend money in mobile gaming, right? Which is a very small fraction of a percent of the audience that matters in this quote unquote mass market mobile business, right? The reality of it is the people that spend, it's a very small fraction of a percent. So therefore, that's the audience that we care about, right? So all these looky-loos that are fucking on social media and not spending on mobile, like, fine, take that audience. We don't want them. As long as we're servicing the audience that we already have and trying to grow that audience with better content and different content, that's where we can play and live.
It's all correlated. It's all correlated, though.
Well,
it's
maybe.
all correlated. Time spent, revenue.
Yeah, and ads. If you've got, 99% of people not spending money, wouldn't it be great for all of us to make money showing ads to those other people?
We already tried this. We already tried to do e-commerce in games. It doesn't work. All the ads in games are other games. It takes you out of the gaming experience. We don't have high click-through. This is a tried idea.
I just object to this whole idea that Satya is putting out there is like they're trying to compete against TikTok. You're not competing against TikTok, right? You got to compete against the console guys. Like this is not the business that you're in. You're in a premium business. You're not in the tchotchke bullshit business. Stop it.
Yeah, I think they're conflating the challenge of share of time versus what is the content that is consuming that share of time, and how do you develop an experience that takes that back? And yes, how do you, in gaming, develop a 5-second cat video that you scroll through in 2 seconds versus a deep, now $80 experience in console gaming? So I think you're right that we're conflating two different play patterns or experiences that are asking for your time.
You're taking console as the comparison here because you're painting him as the Xbox guy, but you got to remember, like, they still own Candy Crush. They still have Call of Duty Mobile. Like, those are closer substitutes to TikTok, especially for that audience, which tends to be older female. That is a real trade-off. That is a real threat.
No. I mean, look, yes.
You don't think that's a real threat to mobile gaming? You don't think those are trade-offs?
When you're like whales are spending, $5,000 to $10,000 a year, like that's who you care about, right? How many fucking people are that, right? That's not the mass market watching TikTok videos and YouTube cat videos, Like, it's a misunderstanding of what the market is what drives me crazy about these type of strategic decisions, right? As mass market as people play these games, it's not the mass market that's spending on these games. And that's for both console, mobile, and PC for that matter. So we're still trying to cater to this audience and grow that part of it. But
what was really funny too is I saw an article, I forgot if it was Pocket Gamer or mobilegamer.biz, that Monopoly Go is creating a chat app. It's in soft launch somewhere. And so Scopely is actually trying to make an app that does exactly what all of the other chat apps do. I don't know if they're trying to replace Discord. I don't know if they're trying to replace with short form video. But I was like, oh my God, now we are trying to directly add those kinds of features to us. It's to another app too. So anyway, we'll look into that more when we, hopefully get into the soft launch.
All right, let's move on.
Let's wrap this up and let's go to this topic. So layoffs are sadly back in the news and on our radar. We predicted that Amazon would be coming up with layoffs since they were likely going to announce all this before their earnings, which is what happens. Here we are. At the highest level, Amazon is reported to be laying off about 10% of its corporate workforce, about 30,000-ish people. Crest, tell us more about the game's impact and go and drill into that a little bit.
Okay. This is more from the press release, and I'll just give you my take. But so they're basically just restructuring the gaming division. This is what they say. They're restructuring the gaming division to focus on things that align with their broader strengths, which is streaming, entertainment, prime litigation, and the fucking bullshit Stadia thing that they're doing. Okay. Anyway. So Hartman, who's I think been in charge of this for a while, basically said they're cutting roles in Irvine and San Diego and Central Publishing team. And they're emphasizing casual AI-driven projects, but they're also maintaining the partnerships with Crystal Dynamics for Tomb Raider and the Maverick games with this open world. I think it's a racing game.
March of Giants. Is that the MOBA?
Yeah, fucking MOBAs. Okay. Yeah, so I guess they're going to complete that game too, which is crazy.
Likely, these are all like licensing deals they can't get out of.
Right. I mean, they're shutting it all down, right? But they have these certain contractual obligations that they need to maintain. And then ultimately, everything's going to get shut down. Like their gaming thing is over, except for maybe this casual AI bullshit and Luna, which is a dumb thing because the unit economics don't work. And what sucks for me personally is that Lord of the Rings is now, the MMO is gone, and the New World is likely going to get sunsetted. They're not going to really support that anymore. And most of the reaction out there has been like, wait, this thing still exists? Like, Amazon's still making games. So anyway, I don't know. Philip, you disagree with my assessment?
So just to clarify, I was an Amazon game employee. I was the Amazon game employee of one out of Sweden. So just to give you a little bit more of a lay of the land, there's Seattle, there's Irvine, and there's San Diego, which are the main game development hubs. And there's also Montreal, which is where the MOBA March of Giants is being produced. And a lot of the ex-Rainbow Six team were hired and spun up there. And then, of course, we were trying to get Europe going. But, King of Meat is on here, and we don't need to talk about King of Meat. Before Christoph came in, who was the ex-CEO of Take-Two, there was, I would say, like a bread and butter Amazon executive who ran the division. And that's where you got Breakaway, Crucible, all the history we don't need to go down as complete disasters. Christoph came in and started to make a real games organization. He hired real games people. The problem is he basically moved to Germany and has abdicated responsibilities. And he's the only person who I think hates mobile more than Andrew Wilson. And so that all died as well. MMOs were never a strategy, by the way. That just like sort of happened naturally. So not only did you have Lost Ark and New World, remember that you also have Throne and Liberty, which is the other Korean MMO, which, by the way, Lost Ark and Throne and Liberty make a lot of money for Amazon Game Studios. Those are very good deals, and they did a lot of really great localization work on both of those titles. If you remember, there was the game from Japan that Capcom was launching the whole franchise around, that got canceled, Perfect Blue, something along those lines. I don't have it off the top of my head. So Amazon Games is certainly not dead. Irvine definitely got gutted. San Diego got gutted. I actually think Irvine's probably dead. Seattle lives on, and Montreal lives on. So I think all that is really important to lay out. All those additional pieces you're talking about, Luna, Twitch, all those things, not a part of the core Amazon Game Studio, nor should they ever have been a part of the Amazon Game Studio ecosystem. And so when we talk about synergies, I actually think the great thing Amazon Games did, and why I think they've been relatively more successful than other tech companies doing this, is they tried to build a real games org, and they didn't have all these synergies. Like, for example, AWS, you pay at cost for AWS. You don't get some sort of special discount, which is exactly how it should be. The organization needs to run on its own and be self-sufficient. And I think that's the problem that you're pointing out that I agree with, is that we haven't chosen good genres, or we didn't choose good genres. We chose MMOs, which have been long dead for, over a decade, besides World of Warcraft, particularly in the West. We chose racing, which Need for Speed sells the same amount of copies every fucking year. Forza, all these racing franchises just sell the same copies every single year. And we chose a MOBA. Like King of Meat had his own thing that's kind of interesting, but like that also flopped. I think it's just been bad selection of projects. There's certainly a lot in the graveyard you haven't heard about, but I think of all the companies, Amazon has stuck with it and been relatively more successful than other companies. Just they weren't able to make it work at the end of the day. And I agree with you. It's because they chose bad genres. I don't think it's broader organizational handicaps.
That has not been my take from the very beginning. And maybe what the new era with Christoph has changed, but the history of this division is riddled with complexity around different operating priorities, right? Because you have
Lumberyard.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you talk about an engine? Well, they had Amazon games on mobile too, where they were trying to compete with the app stores.
Okay, I've been talking about this since before Philip even joined this goddamn this fucking podcast, right? But like, you have Twitch, you have Prime, you have Game Studios, you have AWS, you have Lumberyard, and now you have fucking Luna, right? You have 6 different groups that are like feeding this like strategy requirements for the gaming division, and that's not gaming.
They don't, though. They operate independently.
Dude, their incentives were built around AW Prime subscriptions, right? Like that was their incentive. That's how they were actually getting rewarded. Their bonuses were based upon how many Prime fucking subs they were getting. Dude, that is a complete bullshit.
First of all, Amazon doesn't do bonuses. Amazon does stock-based compensation.
Stock-based comp bonuses, yes. Wrong. All their things were tied to whether they got Prime subscriptions. Like, this was happening, or AWS, or using Lumberyard, or all these other things. This is maybe before your time at Amazon. It was all set up in a disastrous way. And the fundamental problem with it was, in my opinion, or what I've been told, is that they were all getting paid in Amazon stock and making gajillion dollars. And so they had no reason to rock the boat, right? And so they're making all this fucking money. This is the Netflix problem too. It's like they could do whatever the fuck they wanted to do, right? And budgets didn't matter. Fucking timing didn't matter. And so it's like, they're just like willy-nilly, like building bullshit. And then, so this is why the Christoph thing may have changed my initial problems. But then to what you're saying, and I would say it in a much more negative light, is they chose the wrong genres. Like these genres are the stupidest ideas ever. Like MMOs, even though I love them, that is not a good place to go. The Lord of the Rings MMO made kind of sense. New World, and then MOBAs, and then racing games. I mean, I've said a million times on this podcast, racing is the dumbest idea.
Yeah.
You know, like there's just no market for racing games anymore. And so let me just finish this last point. So it's like, I'm always on the cusp of like, if you think about it, like there's product strategy and product execution, right? And the product strategy has been wrong from the get-go with these guys, right? In terms of what they're doing. Their execution has not been that bad, right? Like New World was a great MMO, right? Lost Ark and what they did there was amazing. Like they were really successful in like porting that over and bringing that to the West. Look, their execution was not bad, right? And I think they were throwing a lot of money at it too, you know? And this is straight on Christoph's watch, right? This is not like, you know, like him making MOBAs and MMOs and fucking racing games. Like that's on him, you know? So I don't know. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm going to take a little different angle because I already agree with a lot of what you said, Chris. Is I have a really good friend who works on New World, and his wife also works at Amazon, and both of them got laid off a couple days ago. So this hits home and just absolutely sucks. And she wasn't even in games. You know, she was part of the 30,000 gate that we don't know the number for games specifically. So I think what I wanted to get your perspective on too is this, you know, I listen to a lot of these market podcasts, and it's all of these companies chasing the AI investment. And we've talked about this before. If you're a big company, all your resources and focus is going to, you know, AI, you know, dear game team, do something with AI. Do what? Oh, I don't know, but just do something with AI. And, you know, so games doesn't matter anymore. Games are becoming the pimple on the ass of like all of these companies chasing AI. And ironically, the New York Times just released this article about Amazon going to robots, mainly in the warehouses, not, you know, obviously in the white collar jobs. But, you know, I just think everyone's chasing, you know, what's sexy about AI, and they're forgetting about games, although Satya's, you know, saying it's important, even though he has the same focus on AI. So what does this mean, you know, when there's nobody left in the public space, like EA is, you know, starting to leave? Like, is this going to be the dip in game investment that in a couple of years from now, there's going to be a glut of games? We're going to be stuck with black hole games, and there's going to be nothing new because everyone that needs to spend the money on these things, except for the companies backed by the Saudis, it's like no one's investing anymore. I think I'm scared about that. I'm scared about there being nothing fun to play in 3 years. Not that Amazon was at the forefront of that. Maybe the Lord of the Rings MMO, but I don't know. Anything to that idea?
It's our own damn fault. It's our own damn fault. Like Convoy released a fascinating graph, you know, I think it was about 6 months ago, which is the share of venture activity inside of games going to AI related activities was around 10 to 15% of VC venture capital in games. But when you looked at overall venture capital, around 70% of venture capital in overall tech was going towards AI. So we're not pumping money into AI with inside of games. That is a huge problem. We were just talking about Elon Musk and XAI going after games with an AI thesis. Who is doing that inside of games? Very few people are doing that. We used to be the first best use case of technology. It's always what you hear when you hear about like blockchain and why VCs funded games to advance the blockchain is we're the first best use case for technology. And only that, we funded half this fucking AI revolution with all the NVIDIA graphics cards we've been buying for the last 30 years. Oh, and so games need to embrace this. It's true. It's true. Dude, we kept that company going.
No. Okay, fine.
We should be getting the thank you cards every year.
Yeah, I mean, that part's true. Like if you look back in the history of
the nerdy PC gamer shut-ins didn't buy nearly the number of chips that these fucking big companies are buying right now. Like, it's nothing compared to that.
I agree with Phil's point that allowed that company to survive to get to where it is today, which is, yes, it's left games behind. It's like, fuck you games. Like the sexy girl over in the corner is what I'm looking at now because...
This is us. This is a games industry problem. This is us needing to adopt this. And we've been taken over by public company executives who are afraid to take on any single risk, and artists, left-wing artists who are sometimes reasonably fearful for what job security means under the new regime. We need braver people. We need braver people because all the AI conversation in games is just faster horses. Same thing with EA. That was the first speculation. Oh man, can we use AI to optimize cost? Okay. That's not where this is gonna be interesting.
Let's take a step back on this. This is a long debate, and I don't know if we can go into it right now. But we had almost unlimited money being fucking funneled into this business in 21 and 22. And what was the result? There has not been one successful blockchain game. There's been barely successful mobile games besides Turkey, really, in that time frame.
And China. I mean,
but that doesn't count because that's not what these VCs were investing in. Like everything they invested in the gaming space has been a train wreck. I can't even think of a good example of one that's been successful now that they think about it. But anyway, like we had unlimited carte blanche to like innovate and build and take chances, get outside of this traditional console like publisher model, and nothing happened. Because the industry didn't want it. The gaming audience doesn't want that. The consumer doesn't want that. And I think people keep forgetting that the consumer is the consumer, right? So I want to be clear on this point. Philip, Amazon gaming is done, right? Like they get these games out, it is over, right? All the central teams seem to be getting decimated. All the studios that they could close, they're closing. All the projects they can cancel, they cancel. But all these 3 games that they're in development are I think 2 are one's a publishing deal, first of all, right? One's a contractual with the Tomb Raider, and I'm a little bit surprised that they're actually even doing the racing game. But like once those 3 games are out, the business is over, right?
If Montreal got shut down, I would be inclined to agree with you.
Yeah.
But the fact that's still alive gives me more pause. I expected to see more cuts there, and I can follow. I mean, I got enough people at Amazon Game Studios to reach out, but that was my question mark here. And why is Christoph still leading? Like Christoph didn't take a lot of accountability on this. In fact, he took almost zero accountability, which is scary, and I would say is consistent with my experience there. Yeah. And I'm troubled by that.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
Using clunky payment systems in your game, that's like fighting a boss with a wooden sword. AppCharge gives you the power-up you need: seamless in-app purchases, global payments, and analytics that don't require a PhD. Monetize smarter, not harder. AppCharge, because your game deserves better loot.
Attention app and game developers. Are you ready to unlock the secrets behind the world's top performing apps and games? With Sensor Tower, you get the ultimate competitive edge, whether it's breaking into new markets, fine-tuning your UA strategies, or boosting monetization. Dive into data like never before. Track global trends across app stores. Analyze market-leading in-app purchase and in-app ad strategies, and benchmark your performance with real-time insight. The best part, Sensor Tower doesn't just deliver data, it helps you turn it into action. With intuitive tools and expert analysis, it's everything you need to make smarter, faster decisions. Thousands of app and game studios, from indie creators to global giants, trust Sensor Tower to help them win. So why not you? Start your free trial today at sensortower.com. That is sensortower.com.
Game devs. Here at Heroic Labs, we know that great gameplay is what players love, but integrating metagame features like challenges, progression, and rewards is crucial for retention and monetization. But coding them is a tedious and time-consuming process. That's why top studios have turned to Hero from Heroic Labs. Hero provides a complete suite of battle-tested metagame features that are quick to implement, letting you spend more time on the core gameplay experience. Ready to ship fully featured, engaging games? Check out Hero today at heroiclabs.com.
All right, so let's go into Battlefield 6. So, Chris, you put this in here because of the massive new Season 1 updates that they're doing.
Oh, right. Well, but I mean, this is a huge thing because they're actually they're releasing, I think, relatively early, something to compete directly against the free-to-play version of Call of Duty, right? And so
Warzone, right?
Warzone, right? And it's called RedSec. It's like 46 players with duos and quads. Like, So, and supposedly the map is a little bit uninspired, but overall, like the gameplay is solid, and they've done a good job of replicating that type of experience. But I don't know, the question that came up a lot was like, this seems a little early, right? Like to go free to play, like they're still in premium mode, right? Like trying to sell fucking copies at full price, right? Now the free to play version is out, and I think I'm just kind of in the same idea as that they're just going, full boat and just trying to compete head to head against Call of Duty and to build that momentum to take share away from Call of Duty. Of course, Call of Duty at the same time offered another free week, right, during this
Yeah,
release.
I saw that with the current version, right? With the 6. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, because Call of Duty is coming out so late, like this is the only thing they have to do. Usually Call of Duty should be coming out next week, right? Which would have been perfect to compete against it, but they have another week or so after that.
2 weeks.
So.
Yeah, I think it's like the 14th or something.
Yeah, 14th or 19th? 14th? Anyway, whatever.
Around there. I just remember that Adam wants to come on the podcast after it launches so he can talk about it with Phil.
But so far, so good with Battlefield. I mean, I think they're executing very well. The fact that they got this out so quickly is amazing, and the fact that they haven't had any technical challenges. So we'll see. What are you thinking, Phil, on this?
Well, first of all, we need to give a standing ovation to Dice and Vince for shipping a free-to-play Battle Royale mode in Season 1.
Yeah.
I mean, that is an incredible achievement inside of EA. I don't think people understand how hard that is. And launching this in Season 1 while they're still having all the marketing push, they still have all the momentum is also brilliant. You remember there was Firestorm in Battlefield 5, which was the last attempt at Battle Royale, and they took some of those mechanics from Firestorm and integrated them into RedSec. So you have that closing circle of fire that explodes all the shit as it starts to come in using the Dice engine.
Oh
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and it has
it has 100 that, dude.
And it has 100 players, by the way, not just the 46 and duos and quads. You actually can't really do solo queue, which is a huge problem. It has a lot of the respawn mechanics we've seen in Warzone. This is the right strategy, right? There's the thing that I think Vince and team get the most amount of credit for is absolutely zero innovation. I cannot credit them enough. And I'm not being sarcastic. Like, they have taken Call of Duty's template and they basically copied it onto Battlefield. And one of the things you talk a lot about, Eric, is this Western problem of trying to figure out gameplay-based monetization. And one of the things that they have is they were able to copy blueprints from Call of Duty. This is the one of the ways Call of Duty has kind of snuck in power progression. I wouldn't call it power progression, but gameplay, it's horizontal, where you buy a pre-progressed weapon. So in these games, you're leveling up your accounts, you're leveling up a bunch of different things. One of the things you're leveling up is your gun. And as you level up your gun, you unlock attachments. And so what a blueprint does is it basically just has those attachments already in the weapon. It's basically almost like a little bit of it's not an XP boost, but it usually just kind of pre-progresses you a little bit. And you combine that with a cosmetic, it's a blueprint. They ran the same playbook here in terms of attachments. In fact, they improved it a little bit by having points instead of saying, oh, there's only like 6 or 7 attachments you can have. Now you have 100 points, which gives you a lot more system design space to say, oh, this attachment's a little more powerful. We're going to increase the amount of attachment points it costs. So they literally just copied that model, which is also cheap to run from a supply side perspective. And not only that, the other thing that they've copied is the Black Cell Pass. So this is one of the ways that Call of Duty has increased their ARPU on their Battle Pass, rather than just being, $10 every 2 to 3 months. Hey, let's sell you another $30 upsell, which has even more content. So they have copied that and what they're calling Battlefield Pro, which is essentially the Black Cell Pass, but with a little bit more choice. So what you're able to do in the Black Cell Pass is it's non-linear, and you can choose one of these, we call it tracks. And then once you're done with one of the tracks, you can select one of the other tracks. And so this is another $30 upsell. So they finally have a monetization model in Battlefield that makes sense. And you know what it is? Control-C, Control-V Call of Duty, which is exactly what we should have done from the beginning. Like this is about getting the franchise back to being a consistent, real competitor to Call of Duty. And this was a brilliant way to do it. No innovation, just go out and run the fucking playbook. I'm not being sarcastic at all. On monetization, on content, on progression, on RedSec. This is just Warzone. It is the right strategy.
Okay. So for me, I mean, I guess that's super interesting. I thought there was a little bit of innovation in some of the gameplay and the visuals, but I mean, you're the expert.
Yes, but not at the kind of monetization business model perspective. They basically did nothing new and interesting. I mean, Battlefield Portal is interesting. We could talk about that. But this is mostly copying the playbook.
Yeah, and we talk about this all the time. Like, 80% Control V, like cut and paste is okay. And if there's, 10 or 20% innovation, that's okay too. But I did this last week. I don't know if you heard me, but I talked about some of the innovation in the marketing and the way that they did the betas and the way that they brought the game to life, I think has helped to amass excitement and keep people in. And so one of the things that I loved about this strategy was the ability to maybe retain players ahead of the launch. And so I don't know if you listened to the podcast it's called the Game Business Podcast. It was with Embark's Patrick Soderlund, who you know very well. So Patrick Soderlund was the former Battlefield leader at EA for 20 years. They also now make the finals, and they also now make Cress's favorite Arc Raiders, which is very, very interesting. And I hope you have that on your shooter radar as something to really look out for. So one of the things that I thought was super interesting in this podcast that Patrick talked about was when they were dissecting what went wrong with the finals and why that kind of took a dive after launch, maybe 3 months later, was the lack of the meaningful retention-based content. And so, I think to us, we're like, oh, well, that's a no-brainer. Like, what's your content after you launch? So back then, a few years ago, like we actually weren't thinking about that. People weren't thinking about like, oh, I have to make sure I've got new modes, new content as much as they are now. And so it looks like, in a sense, what we're talking about with the Battlefield team, they've really learned from those mistakes, right? That's why we're seeing, a freaking Battle Royale mode in Season 1 competing directly against COD and really pushing them because now they're trying to retain players ahead of that, launch, which is smart. The other insight that he said that I thought was super interesting that people should pay attention to is that he went to his content guys and is like, at first he's like, hey, I think we need to be 10x faster to compete with the China-based games, see Marvel Rivals or something like that. And then he went back a day later and he's like, you know what, I was wrong. We need to be 100x faster. And so how he talked about, to my earlier point about AI and our earlier point about AI, it sounds like they were using, machine learning and AI and pipelines to help with making content faster. And I know that you had said earlier, Phil, about like cost efficiency. I think that their AI for speed is something that people should be looking at, is how do I do things to feed the content monster that all players are coming to expect. So we're looking at a picture of Arc Raiders. By the way, I also love the retro sci-fi 70s looking. It kind of reminds me of Concord, to be honest. But I don't know if you saw that on Battlefield and COD banned the word Arc Raiders from their chat. And so Arc Raiders, again, marketing brilliance, went and did like a post on Twitter that was basically, we're still on track to release like asterisks, because that's what you look like when you get banned in the chat on October 30th. So this game is coming out, tomorrow. We record on Wednesday, October 29th. So check that out.
Well, let me ask you, Jen.
Go ahead.
Hold on. I think, Christopher Dring asked this during the podcast, or at least hinted at it. I just get shades of Titanfall between Call of Duty and Battlefield. And would you release this game now?
They talk about that. Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
No, he lived through this, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, he was the responsible for it in many regards. Yeah.
Yes.
He was solely responsible for the Battlefield, Titanfall bullshit Call of Duty. And yet he's doing it again.
Yeah, would you do this, Jen? What would you do with this?
I don't know if I would have. His answer was, well, we've looked at a bunch of things and we believe that we're in it for the long term and we believe, XYZ. If you are truly going to be, because they are premium, isn't Arc Raiders, doesn't it have a premium component to it?
Yeah, premium plus $40.
And so I think the challenge for them is all premium games need to launch in Q4 just because that's the momentum you have to get. Q4 is where you win. And I think they probably, as they were developing it, didn't realize that Battlefield would be doing as well it's doing. And I think they probably had their sights set on COD.
Whoa. He has all the contacts that knew exactly what was happening with Battlefield. Fucking, I knew Battlefield was going to do well because of how many people were working on it. He certainly did. He knew exactly what was happening, right? He must have less flexibility in terms of his publishing partner. What is it, Nexon? I can't even remember now.
It's Nexon.
Remember, they gave money too.
Yeah, they gave him money, and so he probably was contractually obligated to get it out by a certain time.
Yeah, he talked about flexibility. I mean, by the way, I don't think I've heard of a more lovely publisher that he wasn't pushed on any dates. Maybe it's this. And so maybe it's because it's an extraction shooter, it's PvPvE. Maybe that's why he thinks he can own that segment, because his thesis was that they found a way to make the extraction shooter a little bit more accessible, have a theme and style that was differentiated. They say that it's fun. PC Gamer says it went from under the radar to on my radar to darn near at the top of my most anticipated games of 2025, thanks to successful tech tests that made the coincidentally timed Marathon Alpha look bad. It's currently one of the most wishlisted games on Steam right now. More funny is that the Battlefield and COD betas are centering art raiders. Okay, that actually could be the best gift that they're getting.
Dude, that was the exact fucking argument they made about Titanfall. They're like, oh, it's a different market, different audience.
Okay,
it's
fair
like,
enough.
I mean, like, how can you make the same mistake twice? Like, I'm actually super bullish on Arc Raiders. I think it looks amazing, and I think it'll find its thing. But I would have released this like in February. You know, I would have
waited, especially on the marketing side. You know, as much as they're a medium-sized company, as much as Nexon is supporting it, you do not have the dollars to compete with the number 1 and 2 games. Can you imagine, like, the marketing spend on COD and Battlefield combined? It's got to be over $1 billion. And, poor little baby Arc Raiders, they're like, here's my $100 million marketing budget. Yay. I mean, kudos to them for getting the buzz that they are getting with the community. But you're right. Like, in a perfect world, if I was on the team, I would have been like, March looks really good, guys. Well, actually, remember, like, what about GTA?
Yeah, but that's in May.
Yeah,
like, I
that's
think
in May.
March would give them the window they need. February or March would give them the window they need.
February or March would have been better. But remember, everyone didn't know that GTA was moving. So all of these games, God, would have been in the GTA window. Isn't that crazy to think that we could have had all of these games? All right. Happy birthday to Pokemon TCG. Phil, you want to take us through?
Yes. So Pocket Gamer Biz had an article celebrating TCG Pocket's 1-year anniversary. It has passed 150 million downloads since it launched October 30th, 2024. And according to Sensor Tower, TCG Pocket came in at 445 million versus Pokemon Go's 345 million. I think it was for this year. However, this game is not looking good at all, and I think this was an awful article from Pocket Gamer. So let's talk about the numbers. Let's talk about number. Let's talk about the first warning signal, which is downloads. So we're looking at Sensor Tower numbers right now for Android and iOS worldwide in terms of downloads. And if you remember, the only thing that really powers this game is Japan and the United States, which is around 60-70% of revenue. And it's interesting when you look at TCG Pocket versus Pokemon Go, the Japan-US share actually flips. So this is a very Japanese-centric game with the United States in second. And then when you look at Go, it's actually flipped. The downloads have been slowly declining really ever since the game released. It's been slow chips every single month. And not only that, the downloads have started to run through the funnel. And when we look at MAU, we're starting to see the same effect. So if we look at MAU where it was in March of this year, we're looking at around 35, 38 million. We're down, according to Sensor Tower, to around 22 million users. I mean, that is a huge cut. Now let's look at revenue. Oh my God, it's even worse. So we're looking at a game when we go back and talk about the start of the year at an $840 million run rate. Now it's down to a $300 million run rate based on the numbers from September. That is a big problem. A lot of blinkers should be going off that things are not well. And so DNA in their quarterly earnings have been talking about what the problem is. They say that user acquisition has remained steady, although again, Sensor Tower tells a different story, and that they're worried about, quote, the retention rate of existing users has declined compared to the initial launch period. Well, it looks like revenue is also starting to have that problem as well. There have been a number of problems that I talked about the early part of this franchise. And don't be wrong, I've been wrong about Pokemon Go, but it looks like I may have just got my timing wrong and my scale of incorrectness off. But the question I've always had about this product is how far can a loot box simulator go? Because what do you do in TCG Pocket? You open up packs. The whole core loop is about packs. It's about collecting, and they absolutely killed the meta collection aspect. The problem is that when you don't have a gameplay component that's strong, you can't have a meta. And a meta also helps drive demand for an increasingly large and diverse collection of cards because the meta changes. You have formats like in Magic the Gathering. We know how this stuff works. And without that, you don't have a lot of strategic depth because remember, there is core gameplay. There is TCG Pocket, the actual Pokemon card game battle is in here, but they've stripped down. It's 60 to 20 cards. There's no energy. There's a points win condition. One Redditor called it having the strategic depth of a baked potato. They had their ranked play doesn't give a lot of rewards. Remember, they had trading, which launched. That hasn't gone so well. So there's a lot of things that they need to solve in this product. They have a big update coming next month, which is Mega Evolutions. Let's see what happens there. I'm sure it'll be a one-time revenue bump, but I still think there are core problems with this game that relate back to the CCG element. Now, don't get me wrong. I still think if I had to choose a path between meta collection and core gameplay for Pokemon, I think choosing meta collection was the first right choice to make, because when you compare this to something like Marvel Snap, right? Marvel Snap, amazing core gameplay.
Yeah.
Weak on the monetization meta collection side. Obviously different franchises, Pokemon's the most valuable IP in the world. You know, TCG, by the way, the TCG physical game does to $1 to $2 billion a year. So that is the benchmark for this product, is $1 to $2 billion for the physical TCG. But I still think it's interesting to compare Marvel Snap, which had amazing core gameplay, but didn't really nail the monetization aspect, to TCG Pocket and see where both of them have landed, which is not in a great place for either of them, but at a very different magnitude.
Yeah, it also, when you look at it versus Pokemon Go, they both seem to be going still, but like you're saying, like from a little bit more of a zooming out over the timelines, both are a little bit in decline. So with Pokemon Go, they took over, I think the contract ended in May, so it's not even been that long. Do you think we would have seen Scopely impact on Pokemon Go versus, because one of the things that I was thinking was they are different play patterns. However, the collection mechanic is the same. To your point, meta collection with TCG and Go, you know, it's like, how many times can you be into this franchise and collecting a bunch of shit?
The social is much stronger in Pokemon Go. There's so many different things in the Pokemon Go economy. I actually thought there would be bigger impact earlier in the funnel from a CPI perspective, which we talked about, that they're both competing for the same group of users. And if we're looking at the graph right now, there's actually been two, I don't want to call them sleeper hits, but Pokemon Sleep is actually doing fairly well, which is a very interesting idle game that's actually making quite a bit of money. And Pokemon Unite has not died, by the way. It's still doing a shit ton of downloads, doesn't make anything in terms of revenue, but Timmy is still operating that. And we've seen a little bit of uptick in downloads for both Unite and Sleep, but I think it's really hard to tell a competition for CPI story. If you remember, there's Pokemon Champions coming next year. Let's see how that does. There's the Switch Animal Crossing style Pokemon game, which is coming. And there is one more Pokemon game coming that I think when people see this Pokemon game, they're going to be shit-faced. I don't think we can talk about it now, but I think it's been kind of like it's an industry, I want to say rumor at this point, that keeps circulating, but there's something else big for Pokemon coming that I think could affect this as well.
All right. Well, thank you for Pokemon Talk. Happy birthday. And that covers it for today. Sorry we went a little bit late, and see you guys next week.
You did it. You made it to the end of the episode. As a fan of the show, it would help us out if you'd subscribe and leave us a review on the podcast service of your choice. Those stars and likes, while a small action on your part, mean a lot to us and help to grow the show. More importantly, are you a member of the Deconstructor of Fun Slack group? If you have 5 years or more of games industry experience, go to deconstructoroffun.com/Slack and apply to join. Join the games industry best professional community filled with peers always willing to lend a hand, or subscribe to our newsletter to get all the latest insights from the Deconstructor of Fun content creators. Thanks for listening.